show you how to do a little troubleshooting on your die in case there's some issues with your design. Now what I have here is I have my dice open right now. A little bit different than the one I was working on yesterday. It does have my initial in it. There's the T. In this example, I have it on side too. So this was just a different project that I had done. One thing that I wanted to spend some time talking about is over here. It says browser bar. This is called your model browser. And I briefly mentioned this before, but this does keep some history of your drawing. When I say history, it means it kind of keeps track of all the steps that you've done in your drawing. And what it really enables you to do is go back and edit some of the functions. Now, if you have your screen open and you don't see this browser bar, let me show you where you can find that. Up here at the top, it says View. Hopefully you can see that okay. It's just barely in my screen there. But there's a View menu, and I'm going to click on that. And over in View menu, there's something that says User Interface. So I'm going to click on that. And it has some options in here. One of them is the browser. I'm going to turn that off just in case yours is set up like that. And I'm going to go back to my 3D model tab. So let's say you're working on your dice, and this is what your screen looks like, and you're having some issues that you want to go back and fix. Now, one thing that some of you have been doing is hitting that back arrow. The problem with hitting the back arrow is, let's say you don't want to change everything that you just did. You want to go back in time and change a certain thing. So let me go back to my View button here. Let me go to User Interface, and I'll turn Browser back on. So you see that column pops back up on the left. Now there's a disadvantage to having that there, and that's that it does take up some of your screen space, which is particularly cumbersome if we get to the point where we are working on our Chromebooks. So if you are working in your Chromebook screen, when we get to that point, having this browser open can be a bit distracting. Now if you're on the big computer screen, I like to have it open all the time so that I can go back and edit some features. So let's look at some of the things we can do. First off, you're going to notice that there's some plus signs next to all these features. And what you can do is you can click on the plus sign to expand some things. For example, if I click Origin, I can kind of just hover over and see what my different drawing planes are. Now this is something we don't really need to address on the dice, but when we get into other projects, we are going to need to identify some particular drawing planes, especially if we're drawing on cylindrical objects. So let me minimize that. Here at the top, and these do go in order, whoops. Here at the top, these do go in order. The original, my first extrusion when I made the cube, my original sketch was a rectangle. If I right-click on that, so I'll right-click on that, I can go to Edit Sketch. And let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, look what I have on the screen. I have the very first square that I drew. Before I had extruded it into a cube, here's the very first square. If I needed to make some changes, let's say I have my size wrong, I could double-click on my dimension. There it shows up as 1 inch, and I could change that. So if you had something other than 1 inch, you could change your measurement there. I'm going to leave it at 1 inch, so it is the same, and I'll go ahead and close that. Once I'm done, if I've made any changes or whether or not I made any changes, I can just go finish sketch, and it should go back to my original dice. Takes a little bit of time. Again, the program's trying to think through what it has to do. Let me minimize that. Now, you'll notice as I hover over my browser, I can see my different menus. And so here's hole 1. It says hole 2, but remember I did size 6. That was my second one. I did 3 and I did 4. Let's go to the second one. That's where I did 6. And let's look at this sketch. So I'm going to right-click, Edit Sketch. So here, if your lines look like or if your holes look like they're misaligned, you can go in here and just double click on a dimension and make any changes that you need to do. Now you see that these show up as decimals. If you remember when I did this original activity, we did these as fractions. Autodesk Inventor converted them into decimals for us. Excuse the intercom while I do this. So I'm not going to make any changes there. I'm going to close. Let's go finish sketch and go back there. So I can go ahead and minimize that. And you can make any changes. Let's look at one more. The last one I did was 5. It shows up as the 6th feature for whole was 5. And I'll right click, edit sketch. Let's see what we had going on for 5. There I used 0.25, so I was using 1/4 inch. And I had this one centered. Remember how I looked for those 2 guidelines? And so you can do different things in here. You can delete parts of your sketch. You can change your dimensions, all sorts of things if you've made a mistake. Let me close that one. Okay, finish sketch to go back to my original cube. See this last one here? This is my extrusion. And this is where I added my initial. Let's look at this sketch. So I'm going to right click, edit sketch. Now let's say I wanted to do both my initials. So I'm going to go grab the line tool there, and I'm going to add that in. I'm going to add my second dimension. Okay, so I'm in here. If I wanted to make changes to this initial, I could, but I'm going to talk a little bit about adding a second one. Now, I can't add a second one in here. If you look, you see that I tried to, but I tried to add it from here. I tried to do an edit sketch, and I tried to add it from there, but if I go to finish sketch, it doesn't show up. So what I need to do is I'm going to do another extrusion on there. So I'm going to click on the pencil, I'm going to click on the face, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that in, similar to my other one. Now I'm just redrawing a block letter, and then I'll go back and do my extrusion. This is something we can't do when we're editing in the model browser. I tried that and I failed at it. So sometimes we learn from our failures. Now, one thing you'll notice, it's kind of glitchy as you're trying to highlight this, and I noticed this with some other folks working on this. Make sure before you do your extrusion, it only selects your initial. Make sure you set the depth to 1/8, and make sure you change the direction of cut. So there we go. So, to just kind of recap what I went over, I mostly wanted to talk about the model browser. I did want to show you how you can edit your sketches, but what we found out in this video is if you needed to add anything new, you have to do an additional 2D sketch. Hopefully you find this video useful for doing a little bit of troubleshooting. Again, if your dimensions are off on any of your holes, you can go back in there and edit those sketches and change your dimensions. This is all in the model browser menu. If this is not open, remember you go to that View tab, User Interface, View tab, User Interface, make sure browser is on. If you like a clean area, you can turn your browser off, go back to 3D model, and then you have more room to draw. Hopefully this helps you troubleshoot your drawings a little bit. I know some of you are getting through this cube. We are going to be looking at different drawing types here in the future. So until next time, good luck.